G'day legends, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast, continuing with our best 17 series for the preseason of 2025. Today we're going to get stuck into the Cronulla Sharks, a super interesting season for them. I believe their premiership window is open right now. I said on Bloke the other day, I think if they don't win a comp in the next 2 to 3 years with this current group, I think they would consider that to be a failure. And I say that as a compliment because I think this squad is so strong from jersey 1 to about 25. Their depth is incredible. Their starting 17 is fantastic. There is no holes in this squad. There's maybe positions that there's better players in the comp, but all their guys are at worst 7 out of 10. I think there's no holes in this side. So I think they're looking really good heading into this season, the Cronulla Sharks. We'll go through their best 17. If you're on YouTube, guys, this obviously dropped a week ago in the Roo Crew, our Rugby League Guru Patreon group. The link is in the description if you would like to join us there. $8 a month, or you can get 10% off if you pay your annual fee when you join. All the content in there. There's going to be too much for you to deal with. There'll be live events, everything going on. Make sure you come and join the Rugby League Guru Patreon community. Link in the description. Let's get stuck in to the Cronulla Sharks. They won their first finals game last year under the coaching of Craig Fitzgibbon. The monkey is off the back. They've got a couple of things still to sort out, but I believe they can sort that out quickly, and I think they can be a genuine premiership threat very quickly. Let's start at the fullback jersey, and if I'm completely honest, this is probably the most interesting one for me. Will Kennedy. He was their player of the year about 3 years ago, had an incredible season. I think since then he has struggled a little bit. I like Will Kennedy. I think he's a great fella. He's a great clubman. My concern is, can the Cronulla Sharks win the premiership if they don't have an elite fullback? And I know that they're fantastic in other spots, and I get that, and you don't have to have elite guys in every single position, but I'm not convinced fullback's a spot that you can get away with, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. You have a look at the premiers over the last few years. Obviously, the Panthers, Dylan Edwards is great, but even over the years before that, every single team has an elite fullback. In my opinion, if Ben Barber didn't land at the Cronulla Sharks in 2016, I think they're still looking for their first premiership. He was the little added bit of spice that they had. And, of course, we get to grand final night. He locks into the scrum and he scores a try that ends up, they won that game by one score. Like, Ben Barber was essential in that side. Ben Barber was up and down throughout his career, but when he was at his best, he was absolute dynamite. And I just think you sort of need that guy in your team. And if you even go through the premiership since then, Ben Barber was the fullback. Then it was Billy Slater. 2 years of James Tedesco, Ryan Pappenhausen. It's been Dylan Edwards ever since. I think you need an elite fullback to win a competition. And I think if they get Will Kennedy they got 2 or 3 years ago, I think he can be that guy. But I think if they get the Will Kennedy they got in the last 2 seasons, I'm not as convinced. They've got a couple of young guys there like Ison and Cade Dykes that I really like, that I would like to see get an opportunity there to see what it looks like. But the number one thing that is holding me back from pulling that trigger, this is the Cronulla Sharks start to their season. Penrith in round 1 in fucking Las Vegas. They come back. They then have to go to North Queensland to take on the Cowboys. They come back home. They take on Wayne Bennett and the South Sydney Rabbitohs, followed by the Canterbury Bulldogs. And then they're going down to Canberra the week after. So in the first 5 weeks, the Sharkies go Las Vegas, North Queensland, Shark Park, followed by a trip to Canberra. A lot of away games. They're 2 home games against South Sydney, who I think will be a top 8 side this year, Canterbury, who I think will be there and thereabouts. It's a pretty tough start, and I think it is a big ask to send a guy like Ison. I know it's not his first grade debut, but it's very early in his career to send him over to Las Vegas with a disrupted preseason, all that stuff going on. I want to see one of those young guys get an opportunity, but I think when I look at this draw and what's going on, I think I give the jersey to Will Kennedy to start the season. Hopefully he can have a big bounce back. I spoke to one of the senior Sharkies the other day, and one of the first guys he mentioned was how good Will Kennedy is looking and how well he's going. So hopefully he can have a big bounce back. And to be honest with you, you, nothing would make me happier than for me to be completely fucking wrong on this, because I love Will Kennedy. I love the sort of footballer he is. I love the sort of person he is. You talk to anyone down there, Sharkies fans or whatever, he's got time for everyone. You know, he's never done anything dirty on the field or any grubby or any sort of shit like that. He's just a genuine, really good fella who has got ability. He's just been quiet the last few years. Maybe his halves haven't helped him when it comes to that sort of stuff as well. But I really hope we can see a big bounce back from Will Kennedy, because to put it simply, the stats that he came up with last year, I just think you need more. I think I don't have them in front of me. You guys can go and have a look at them yourself. But I do think they need to get more out of Will Kennedy. And when I say more, I think they need to get what they got out of him a couple of years ago. So hopefully we do see a bounce back by him. I think it is going to be important for the Sharkies if they're looking to win a premiership. If you have a look at last year, he scored 5 tries last season, 5 tries from 26 games in a top 8 team. He had 8 try assists and 4 line breaks from 26 games. I'm sorry, but if you can combine try assists and line breaks and not get to 20 as a combination when you play 26 games in a top 4 side, I do think something has to change there. So we need to see a big bounce back from Will Kennedy. It was only a few years ago. He played 24 games, scored 14 tries, had 14 try assists and 15 line breaks. He's got it in him. We've just got to see that this year. Will Kennedy would be my fullback because of all the stuff going on, the travelling, the distractions. I think it is the best player, and I think it is his jersey, and I think he does deserve an opportunity to show what he can do. On the wings, these guys pick themselves, as does most of this side. Sione Katoa on the right, Mulatalo on the left. Interesting, we saw the other day the Sharkies made a couple more re-signings. It really is only Mulatalo of the big dogs that's left to re-sign. This is a very, very interesting watch, especially when last year we got to see Sam Stonestreet, who came in and did incredibly well. Mulatalo is a cult hero down there at the Cronulla Sharks. They absolutely love him. I know that he loves Cronulla as well, but this is the reality of a salary cap. You can't keep everyone. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Mulatalo here. I would assume for him to stay at the Sharkies, he might have to take a little bit of a pay cut, which wouldn't shock me if he does, to be completely honest with you. But it is a situation to watch with Sam Stonestreet ready to go, ready for first grade now. An interesting watch there. But Katoa and Mulatalo, they would be my wingers for round 1 in Vegas. Jersey number 3, I would be going with Jesse Ramian and Kale Itero in the centres. Ramian obviously on the right, Itero on the left. Ramian's been a lock in that spot for a couple of years. Itero, we've been talking about him for seasons, saying I can't fucking understand why they're not picking him. They finally did last year. They made the move of moving Talakai back to the bench, and I think it paid massive dividends. Itero had a huge year, wasn't far off Rookie of the Year for me. I think he might have just scraped in there for games and whatnot. But 23 games, 6 tries, 10 try assists, 10 line breaks, 102 tackle breaks. The big thing for me, though, he averaged 160 metres per game at centre, a very, very good knock. Did only score the 6 tries throughout the season, but it should be noted, in the first 18 rounds, he only scored 1. So he scored 5 in the last 10 weeks or so, and was starting to play some really good footy. So Itero, defensively, very strong, and in attack, I just love the meters he goes for. Does a lot of work. I think he's a certainty to grab that spot. We get to the halves. Nicho Hynes obviously won a Dally M medal at halfback a couple of years ago. I've been telling you guys for years, Matt Moylan was the perfect 5'8" for him because he'd sit in the pocket and let him do his own thing. Trindle came in last year. We spoke about this all season. We don't need to get into it again. They're 2 dominant ball players, and it's a big concern for me. I've said to you guys for a long time, who's the better footballer? It's Nicho Hynes. Who's the better halfback? It's Trindle. Trindle should be the halfback. Hynes should be the 6. Let Hynes float. Let him just play eyes up, and let Trindle direct this team. Reality is he's better at it. You look at Nicho Hynes when he won that Dally M incredibly well, but then when you get against those top sides, I don't think he's got the understanding and I don't think he's got the direction in his football game to be able to win those big games. And I think Trindle actually does. And I don't want Hynes worrying about getting to this point, getting these guys in position. I want Hynes to be looking up, assessing the defense and taking his opportunities and run the football. That's when he's at his best. Let Trindle do the kicking, let Trindle do the organising, and Nicho, he can almost play as a second fullback, and I think he can be electric there. I think that's how they have to do it. I see a lot of people saying that Trindle should be the 6. He's the less experienced guy. He's achieved less. He's the halfback. He is the pure halfback in this side. Hines was a halfback when they built the entire team around him. He wasn't playing an orthodox version of 7. It was very unorthodox because Matt Moylan would sit on that left edge and just wait until he was called upon. Trindle's not that sort of guy, nor should Trindle be that sort of guy. He's a genuine 7. He should be the halfback. Hines should be the 5'8", and I believe that backline will be exactly that. Front rowers. Geez, I can't believe we haven't mentioned the name Adam Fanua-Blake yet. He arrives at the Cronulla Sharks, arguably the signing of the year. I can't wait to see how he goes there. You have always felt like with the Sharkies that they've got a very solid forward pack. They've got a lot of depth, but there has been a number of occasions over the last few years where I've gone, fuck, they're just they're an A1 guy short. And I think that when you look at other fellas in their team, Kafusi, Toby Rudolph, these sort of guys, they're good front rowers, but they're not your number 1 front rowers. They're sort of, they're 2 men. You need a main guy in your front row, an alpha. Finally, he has arrived, Adam Fanua-Blake. I think he's going to make a huge difference. He has reportedly really lifted the intensity at the Sharkies since his arrival too. I would pair him up with Oregon Kofusi to start the game. I like this guy. People, I think, overlook him or don't watch him close enough and don't think he's that great. I think he's a good front rower. Once again, is he an elite talent? No. Are you paying him elite talent money? No, you're not. He'll do a job for you. Adam Fanua-Blake is the main guy along with the other forward packs in this side. Oregon's a good guy to start the game with, and I think he'll pair well with Adam Fanua-Blake. Let's have a look at the hooker spot. We have got Blake Brayley, the Iron Man himself. I mentioned the other day, I'd be happy to see him be a co-captain of the Cronulla Sharks. Absolutely love this guy. Less said, the better. He's one of the few guys in the competition that I look at. And quite often my saying is just because you can play 80 doesn't mean you should. This guy can play 80, and I kind of think he should. I think he gets better as the contest goes on, and it frees up opportunities for the Sharkies and Craig Fitzgibbon to mess around with these squads. So I'm okay with Brayley playing 80 minutes. I think he will for the next few years. On the edges, Britt Nikora, I think he's one of the best back rowers in rugby league. I think because he doesn't play Origin and stuff, I think he gets slept on a little bit. He is an absolute elite second row forward. Would you put him as the number 1 second row forward in rugby league? Probably not, but you'd have him in the top 5 for me, and on his day, he can get the better of any of the guys that are above him. So I love Britt Nikora. I think he's a great player. He'll be on the right edge. On the left edge, a guy that I criticised last offseason, Teague Wilton, egg all over my fucking face. He killed it. Defensively, he was superb. I've always said he runs one of the best lines in rugby league. I think people sleep on that because Nikora runs such a good line. But these two as edge back rowers, I absolutely love both of them. I think they are both tremendous talents, and I think as far as a combo of edge back rowers, I think they'd be right up there in the league. I think they're a really underrated combo because I don't know, just because neither plays Origin, I don't think they get the attention they should. Both run a great line, both good defensively, tick all the boxes. Jersey 13, the beating heart of the Cronulla Sharks, used to be the beating heart of the Dragons. Cam McInnes, you're not going to get anything flash. You're not going to get anything for a highlights reel. You're going to get a heap of blood, a heap of stitches, and a heap of shit I don't want to watch twice. But Cam McInnes, he leads this side through the middle. He's the captain of the Cronulla Sharks. He is in Jersey 13. He'll do a tremendous job. We then move to the bench. I'll leave Jersey 14. I'll come back to it. Jersey 15, Hazelton. He's obviously off contract at the moment, able to negotiate with other clubs. I think he will get offers of 700 plus sort of range. I think a lot of teams will go hard at him. If I'm the Newcastle Knights, I'd be throwing a dart at any front rower that I could at the moment. And Hazelton, reportedly, is at the top of their list. I'm sure he'll be at the top of Cronulla's list too. Interested to see how that plays out. He will be more valuable to other teams as a one guy than he probably will be to the Sharks. So I'm keen to see the decision that Hazelton makes there. He would be Jersey 15. He's an automatic. He's a try-scoring front row forward. Bit of a cult hero. Got a good motor on him. Ticks all your boxes. Jersey 16. I've got two guys here. I've got Tapahua and you've got Hamlin-Uele. I'm not quite sure which one I would go with here. I kind of like the look of Tapahua. We saw him for a couple of games last year. He looked really good to me. I don't know how big his motor is. I've only seen him playing, 20, 30-minute stints. I'm sure he could go more, but he looked really explosive. I really liked him. Hamlin-Uele, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. It's almost like he's fallen out of favour a little bit with Craig Fitzgibbon. I think that would be fair to say. I just feel like we didn't see as much of him last year as what I would have anticipated. Just going to get up his stats here to see how many games he ended up playing. Okay, he played 12 games. Wasn't in the team until round 7. Missed a few games here and there. But even when he was in the team, he only played over 30 minutes on 3 occasions. So I think he's a little bit out of favour. I have heard that he's another one that's come back looking really fit. I watched him play in the New South Wales Cup Grand Final for the Newtown Jets last year. He looked unreal. I almost forgot he was in that team until I saw them. I was like, oh my God, he's still flying. I think he can get in there. One of those two for that spot. I think just whoever does better in trials, whoever's fitter, faster, etc. We'll see how they go. Jersey 17 would be my boy, Sifa Talakai. Got a few mascot boys in this side. I love Talakai off the bench. He can play as a front rower. He can play as a centre. He can play as a second rower. I genuinely think he could win, a Dally M award at centre or in the second row. He is tremendous. When he was in the centres, he averaged 180 metres per game. When you put him on in the middle, he just turns momentum. He gets a quick play ball. He gets an offload. Got fast feet, hard to handle. Takes up 3 or 4 defenders to bring him down. I love having Talakai off the bench. I think it's unreal, and I'm so glad he wasn't lost to rugby league a couple of years ago. So that's my Sharkies, 1-17. Once again, similar to some other sides we've spoken about, this is where it gets really impressive though. I didn't have Toby Rudolph in that side. I would probably have these guys over Rudolph if I'm completely honest. I think he's coming back from injury as well, so we'll see how that plays out for him. Other guys, you've obviously got Ison and Dykes who can play fullback 5'8", sort of in those positions. Stone Street, we mentioned, he's not in this side. Hiroti can play on the wing as well. Stone Street's probably next man up though. You got the Puru brothers. One is a lock forward that I absolutely love. I think he's got a future at the Sharkies. And the other one's a halfback who can throw his own weight around. He's handy. You got Billy Burns. You've got Beryl who can jump in at hooker if fucking Blake Brayley ever decides to have a week off, which I can't see it happening anytime soon. And you got Jesse Colhoun as well, who I've also heard is doing good things. So Jack Williams has departed, so there is a little bit of a spot on that bench there, and they've got so many guys to fill it with. The Sharkies' depth is just incredible, honestly. There's a lot of teams in this competition that if I look at them and I take out a certain player, I go, that's the Jenga player. If I take them out, this thing's going to fall into a heap. I don't think the Sharkies have that dude. I really don't. People will say Hines, but I think Trindle can win you games of football. I think he can keep you in a top 8 with the rest of this squad that he's got and the weapons